Good morning. Now, I've got this very good book going through the Bible, and it's where it came from and interpreting it and all this and that by a scholar and a minister too, I believe, a Scottish chap whose name is escaping me at the moment. But it's a very good book anyway. And I was just getting towards the end of it now, so speaking about Paul, St. Paul, and what he got up to, and then the Great Commission came to mind, so that's at the end of the Gospel of Matthew, and Christ says, "Go forth and make disciples, baptize everyone," or words to that effect. I am paraphrasing. Now I wrestle with this. So go forth, bring the light of Christ to shine in this dark world. I wrestle with this question. I make these films which are potentially available to the whole world, basically. I've been doing it now for over 12 years, getting on for 13 actually. Started in early 2008. Bought a computer in Slough, west of London. A laptop with a webcam. Initially I thought I'd be flooded out. I'd have to have secretaries and an office and all sorts. I've moved from using my own name to what I now call my Christian Broadcasting Place, because I can't have CBC because Canada got their first Canadian Broadcasting Company. Fine. So that's what it is, and I want something to come of it, not just me doing these monologues to camera. And yet, here we are. It's been going as that name for 5 years, I think, now. Pretty sure I started the site in the summer of 2015 when I was living in Dublin, under the portico the zoo in Phoenix Park, as one does. It was actually, I miss in a curious way my life of pilgrimage, as I described it, living out with no money, literally being fed in Dublin by, well, he was Brother Kevin, I think his name is, an old Capuchin monk, so Franciscan. They broke off, so they Capuchin, and feeding 150 people lunch there. You could always go back for seconds, breakfast in the morning in the cold winter. Warm, dry place, you can have a shower and all of that. So a tremendous facility for anyone, and there were no questions asked. I mean, they would sort of know if you were kind of blagging it. And there was one chap who had a nice home and everything, but he used to go in and get his meals there. And another old Irish gentleman I knew as well who had his own place and so on. But it was pretty obvious that I was living out because I would turn up with all my worldly goods on my back and my old staff. So there we are. That's me, Francis, living out my life in faith, in a pilgrimage as far as I'm concerned, or on a pilgrimage. So my money ran out in 2009, so in the preceding years I've lived out mostly. I have had some time in as well. And now here I am in a very nice little flat in Harpenden, So I'm sitting pretty, all laid on. This issue of self-publicity is what I'm agonizing about. There are no adverts on my films. I will not allow their adverts. They're not enough views anyway for me to make any money out of it. But I do, if it comes from God, which I believe at times I am truly speaking as someone speaking, God speaking through me here in earth now, not to perfection, but to the best of my ability, with God's inspiration. So no money from that source. I don't want loads of money. I found myself yet again saying to someone yesterday, there's a little local shop and they're very pleasant there, so I have a little chat. What if I were Bill Gates, the head of Microsoft, with all his squillions? I still can't fix the world's troubles. Look at that awful man in America. He's finally apparently conceding that he's lost the election. What a totally awful man he's been. Trashing the whole spirit of good governance throughout the whole world, quite frankly, in my personal opinion, but who cares what I think? I have this one cigarette a day, basically, and it helps me think. So it's an ancient connection with fire, our caveman ancestors. So I don't inhale. And it does not disqualify me from being a Christian. I also am inclined to drink rather too much wine, red wine, and I would love to have a woman in my life, which I do not have. I have been married, and my son committed suicide, so there we are, when he was 18, and he would be 28 now, so there we are. So I've been through the mill, thank you, or no thank you. Now, God has given me my precious gift of faith. You can't hold it, you can't touch it, you can sort of prove it exists actually in a curious way, because people do things with faith which to an outsider would seem quite impossible. William Penn comes to mind, as in Pennsylvania in America. Mayflower, the 1620 people who left. Likewise for South Africa. Van Riebeck was the 1652 is the date. So there was oppression, religious oppression in Holland. And these Dutch people set out. And travel in those days was not what it is or used to be in a normal way here in the world we live in now with aeroplanes and the rest of it. So self-publicity is what I'm on about. St. Paul traveled widely and with a view to bringing his knowledge of the light of Christ to shine, to share it with other people. Well, that's what I'm trying to do. I do occasionally get feedback, but by and large, I get virtually zilch from this Christian broadcasting place. I know of specifically a nun, a sister, who's passed on by now, but she started, I believe, at her monastery or whatever, in a small chapel or something, or hall or whatever it was, a broadcasting setup. It's now called EWTN, Eternal World Television Network, and has got millions of subscribers. It's a Roman Catholic channel. I'm of no denomination. My background primarily was, my family background was Church of England, the which I've avoided becoming a priest through the Cathedral and Abbey Church of St. Albans, which is just local to here, 6 miles down south. And I've also avoided becoming a Benedictine monk through the Roman Catholics. So I know something about both of those big organised, purportedly Christian churches. I was also at college at St David's University College, South Wales, in my youth, doing a degree in religion and ethics, as it happens, as one does. Because I'm interested, basically. It is what interests me. First of all, loving God, and then how us, mankind, that's potentially every man, woman, child, obviously, initially, fetus, actually, I don't believe in abortion if at all possible, almost under any circumstances, as in once the sperm hits the egg and that division takes place, therein is God from conception. So abortion on demand, I think, is I've also was training as a medical doctor, as it happens, so yes, without going into the full subject of abortion, but I'm prepared to accept that possibly the loving thing under certain circumstances, if the mother might die, is to abort as well. Particularly that reason, and possibly rape as well. Although even rape, the Roman Catholics will argue that the child should be adopted or something and so on. I mean, it's a big, long, contentious subject. Now, is it me at the age of 64 seeking self-publicity, or, and this is to me the more likely situation because I'm getting older, do I want to be rich and famous? Well, strike out. I'm rich already in faith. In terms of material stuff, if anything, I've done exactly the reverse and tried to discard all my stuff. I try and live by the rule of St. Benedict, which is only to have those things about me which are essential to my daily, weekly, monthly, yearly life. What I can carry on my back, plus a few bits now, obviously. For instance, this lovely table I went and blew some money on, but you've got to have a table and chair in a place, a Christian place. You can't do it on the floor, really. The old chair I'm sitting in was a giveaway. Someone threw it out. Right, so I'm not interested per se in loads of money because money is not the answer. I love St. Francis of Assisi, who utterly, of all the human beings after the early Christians, is known throughout the world for holy poverty, a bride of Christ, living in his strict original rule was holy poverty, utterly depending each day on what, as a Christian, God would give him through begging. The culture in his time was very different, so begging was actually a sort of accepted part of daily life, and faith was a living thing in those days too. His dates are 1182 to 1226. He died at the age of 44. And with him in Assisi and Umbria and northwestern Italy, there was also Clare, so there are the poor Clares, a closed order of nuns, sisters. Two beautiful spirits, a man and a woman. So my difficulty is I have this lovely, nice, peaceful spot. This is the morning scene, the odd dog walker, jogger, and the like. But precious little else. in the way of noise and trouble and stuff. So it's a super peaceful spot. I've got my squirrels, robins and collared doves and rooks and magpies and the rest at the back. Right. Now, my faith teaches me that in an instant, through this YouTube internet, something might develop from this channel where I can keep silent and let others do the talking. That's what I want. Others to join me. I can't do this alone. In what I feel is this godless England, where I seem to be based at the moment, restless as Billy-O. We can't travel at the moment either, as it were, around the world, but to what purpose? I've done it. All the English-speaking countries, basically, certainly. South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, America, Canada, France, Italy, Spain, Sweden, Persia, Iran, India, all over the show I've been. Ireland, Scotland, Wales, obviously. Peru last year, actually, to add another. It's not a competition. All I have to offer the world is my faith. I want to share it with others, the reason churches exist. It's just one verse in Matthew, which says, where two or more are gathered together in my name, Christ's name, there I am also. So we're not there to do whatever people do in their lives together. We're a communal creature, human beings, so we gather together to do all sorts of stuff. I mean, if only people loved God with the same passion that they love their football or baseball or whatever sport. Wouldn't the world be wonderful? And that does happen. I can just think of one now. The Ghanaian sublet of United Reformed Church in St Albans, just by the railway station, the big spire, if anyone knows St Albans in England. They used to anyway, when you could do it before COVID. And boy, are they loud. Music, drums and singing forte, forte. Too loud for me. I actually like silence and Gregorian chant, and that was Handel's Messiah, obviously. I know that my Redeemer liveth. So African churches, actually, which I have experienced, more so in South Africa than anywhere else, they really do go for it and give it some welly. It's too loud for me. I don't like that. I can't hear God anymore. It's just noise in the end. But you can sense they love God. Unlike the Church of England, where we just go in, blah, 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 blah. But there are some very, very beautiful hymns, of course, and the rest. So there we are. Having a conversation with a lady in Spain who, her background was Roman Catholic, and then she was evangelical for 10 years, and she's now gone back to Roman Catholicism. How many Christs were there? One. How many churches, purportedly Christian churches of mankind, are there now? Many. Primarily the Roman Catholics, the other Catholics, Eastern Orthodox, Russian Orthodox, and so on, Greek, Armenian, probably left one or two out. And then, of course, the whole Protestant movement, starting with Martin Luther and the other chap. And all the offshoots thereof. So many churches of man, purportedly Christian, still just the one Christ. So, the two commandments, this is again from this very good book. I must go and look at his name, I've just forgotten the name of the chap who wrote it. But it's a very good, thorough analysis of each book in the Bible and where it came from and what it's about and implications and all sorts of stuff. Christ came to fulfill the law, the Torah, the first 5 books in the Bible, for the Jews, God's chosen people, the Israelites, initially, and then Paul, particularly St. Paul, opened it up to the Gentiles, the Goys, that's the rest of us. Obviously me included, I'm a British citizen, not Jewish. And there are the 2 commandments. It's so simple. Christ came to fulfill the law. This is the big matter, which has caused huge debate through the centuries and still does. So the law is all the rules and regulations. Do this, do that, do the other thing. Don't do this, don't do that, don't do the other thing. That's the Torah for God's chosen people, the Israelites, in the books, the first 5 books of the Bible. And then Christ came to fulfill that. He was a Christian. He would have been brought up he was a Jew. He would have been brought up in the Jewish traditions. And he was Christ, so he was perfect in everything he thought, said, did. Everything directly from God. But also in the practicalities of physically knowing about all the law as given to God's chosen people by Moses. And then he came to fulfill all of that, but just with the 2 commandments. So love God and love your neighbor as yourself, and everyone can understand that. So ultimately the answer is love, and as I'm growing older now, I will speak. Whether anyone listens or not, amen. There's light in my house, my Christian place. The light of Christ shining. Amen.